Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a piggy episode of The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. And here's your host, Alan Mosley.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. I am your host, Alan Mosley, and as always, you can follow us on social media, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Twitter is at Alan M. Mosley, but you don't have to do any of that. You can just go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com.
That's right.
Also, consider supporting the show. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this is the part where this guy's going to beg for more money.
It is.
And you're right. That's exactly right. Consider supporting the show by going to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/TGS Alan Mosley.
That's right.
But you know, you actually, so if you're not into the whole monthly membership thing, you can go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com.
Which is that again?
And there's actually a donation link on there. And we've showed this on the episode before. You can, if you click that donate link, it pops up a little like blank where you can type in a number. Yeah. And if you type in 999,999.99 and then put in your card information, you can send us that much money.
Yeah, it's possible, although unlikely.
It's now, just hold on a second. You know what? I'm not willing to rule anything out.
Of course you're not.
If we finally live in a world where cops go to jail for killing innocent people, then maybe it can happen.
Yeah, hey, anything's possible.
But
right?
we're gonna get to that in a little bit. We're gonna start off by talking about a few of our friends, like we always do. We're gonna start with the other 3%, which they've actually got a new page to avoid the zuckening. It's Me Morris, episode 5. The other 3% strikes back. The waiter says, "Your steak, sir, very rare." And he says, "Wow, that is rare."
That's
and of
rare.
course, the steak is a cop actually found guilty. Oh, man.
For once, it's working out, right?
Yeah, I know. Okay, so this is the new thing on the show, and I've actually discussed this with our friends at the other 3%, which is sometimes I have already found something during the week that I'm like, ooh, we're going to use that one for the show.
Okay.
Right? But sometimes I show up here like the morning of the recording.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you in on a secret.
Okay.
Blake and I are not always 100% prepared.
No, we're not. It's absolutely true. Sometimes we just come in here, and we wing it. And hey, what the heck? That's what this is all about, winging it, right? Maybe not. I don't know. What do you think?
Now, we usually at least have, like, a main topic.
You always have a good idea. You've always got something. Yeah.
Like, we usually will come in like, sometimes we have episodes where I'll say to you, we should do an episode where you and I just talk about something. And you always give me this look of dread. Like, I don't want to have to talk about anything. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I forgot to tell you, a couple of weeks ago, I made it a point of saying, "Hey, everybody, check out our producer Blake Osborne," and you switched to you.
When you're looking over there, you're always looking at me. So when people wonder why you're looking off to the side, I'm sitting over here.
Yeah. I wish I had a really long broom handle so that they could see me doing this,
that would be
and
amazing.
they could see it. Yeah. He's over there, but he's far away.
We need an extra so that when you point off camera like that, your hand comes on screen and goes like...
Yeah, like a foam finger. But no.
That'd be a great gag.
The time that I did this a couple of weeks ago, you switched the camera to you, and you were sitting here like this.
Yeah.
And I actually had a couple of comments about that.
Really?
People were a little bit worried about you.
Well, why?
I don't know if they were worried about you so much as they were worried about the health of this program.
Oh, my gosh. Well, there's your answer. I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway, this is one of those weeks where I knew what I was going to talk about, and the other 3% had a meme that was perfectly, it was
serendipity, man.
It was themed around what we're going to talk about.
Awesome.
So I try that now. I try to find like our meme of the week. I haven't actually been calling it the meme of the week.
Right.
But this is the meme of the week.
Cool.
Like even if I forget to say, "Hey guys, it's time for the meme of the week," that's what this is.
Right.
So don't write me an angry message saying, "You haven't done the meme of the week in like 6 months." No, we have. You just haven't been watching the show in like 6 months. How dare you? How dare you, sir?
Haven't been paying attention.
Yeah. So, but the meme of the week has to be themed around what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Getting at.
We'll show it one more time. There you go.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. So there you go. Well, awesome. You know what? The people that
Kinda
are
makes me want to stay.
the people that listen to the podcast that don't watch it are like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Like,
I have no idea.
Who shows images on an audio podcast? The answer is that you could go to our YouTube, which is the Gold Standard with Alan Mosley, and you can also go to our Facebook page where we premiere each episode when it first debuts.
And you can actually see what we look like.
Like we have. Like, I wish I had a little GoPro so like I could show you. Back there, there's all of this stuff.
Yes.
Like this is an actual recording studio.
Yes, it is.
That we do this show in. And frankly, I'm pretty sure I've run up something like an $8 million tab at the studio to record this show. So I really need you guys to pitch in on that donation link.
Yeah, we're like the U.S. government. Just keep giving us money and we'll throw it away.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. Just keep giving us money.
We promise we'll make things better. Just keep throwing money at us.
Our program is now on the Cerberus Radio Network,
which is really cool.
Which is really cool.
Yes.
And is also is hosted by our friends Jeff and Justin and Greg and Suzanne Sherman, who has the Wasatch Report. I was on that beginning of this week.
Yeah, how'd they go?
It's mostly the same. It's mostly Suzanne yells at us and we say, yes, you're right. Okay. Because it's her show. That's what you do. Yeah, when you're on somebody else's show, they yell at you and you say, of course, that is correct.
They yell at you and you agree and everything's
then when she comes on my show, I say, aha, but is a Pop-Tart or ravioli. And she says, oh, no, not again. That's what we do. But no, we're really happy to be on their network.
Yeah.
It's really the main reason why we cleaned up our act. By our, I mean me.
Did you really clean your act up?
Well...
Wait.
It's you know what? It's probably time for a commercial break. That's what I'm thinking. Let's go ahead.
What was that about abuse?
Let's go ahead and take. I don't want to go to commercial break so I can yell at you. Hey, did you see the playoff games last weekend?
Oh, you're into the sports ball game.
Sports Ball with Mike Meharry and Alan Mosley. SportsBallPodcast.com.
Sports Ball is not a libertarian sports show. It's a sports show done by a couple of libertarians.
For when you need your bread in circuses.
Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for the Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com. You know what? I forgot to mention our friends Nick and Matt over at the Status Quo.
Yeah.
Check out, they actually released an episode on my birthday. September 27th, that was my birthday.
How old are you now, man?
Old enough.
Old enough.
Old enough. That's exactly right. So they actually released episode 45, Big Brother Infringes Best.
Oh, always.
On September 27th, 2019.
Especially that day.
Yeah, they're talking about Ukraine, Biden's corruption, the story of the media refuses to cover how Ukraine got to be the way that it is. That's actually a really long story.
Yeah.
Red flag laws, big tech and Big Brother to prevent gun violence. That's a lot.
Man,
hold on a
busy
second.
Over there.
Hold on. I gotta click on this really quick because now I'm just curious. Like,
I'll go back to it.
How? Yeah, it's an hour and 6. Okay, I was like, how did they fit that much stuff into one episode? Okay,
I don't know. We've had episodes that long before.
Well, we're doing better.
Yeah, we're doing much better.
So, for those of you that have been with us since the beginning, and frankly, for all three of you, thoughts and prayers, but. We used to do some long episodes.
We did. Some of them top 90 minutes, man. I don't know how anybody hung in there.
You know, in the beginning, I did wear a nice shirt, but I didn't wear a suit.
No.
And you sat at the table with me.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You weren't hiding in your little dungeon like you are now.
No. See, now I'm safe.
Yeah. You found your safe space. That's right. Go ahead and flip it to producer cam really quick. Look how dark it is in there.
It's a mess in here, man.
Look
Why
at
do you
that.
want people to see this room?
Like people to eat. But the camera looks better with the lights on.
It
There's
does.
not a light on in that room.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to see the junk behind me. It's
like
just,
the only reason there's light in that corner is because that's the sun coming through the window.
Through the window in the
You're
back,
probably going to put up a curtain eventually.
Nah,
Block that
that's
out.
too much decorating.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So hold on a second.
Yeah.
So what did you say to me before we came out of the break about today's topic?
Of course, I forgot that because I'm blonde.
No, you
Repeat what I said. What did I say?
You said, now I didn't say, I'm not saying that I wouldn't say this. I'm just saying that I didn't say
Quote me.
It was Blake that said it. He said, "We're just happy today because a cop got what they deserved." So that was said by Blake Osborne.
Hey,
he can be found at Osborne Studio and Sound.
That might not be true about everybody.
Okay.
But this one in particular.
Okay. No, it's definitely, well, no, it's true. But it's definitely true. It's definitely true today. So we're, of course, talking about Amber Guyger. Amber Guyger, I'm actually a little bit disappointed they haven't sentenced her yet. They're doing that whole dog and pony show. You know how
but
they
she
do
did get
where,
convicted, right?
So she has been convicted of murder in the death of Botham Jean. It's not Jean. It's like Jean Valjean from Les Mis.
Or Jean-Luc Picard. Yeah.
So that. Of course, I would give the Les Mis. And he would say,
"Sorry,
Sean." Okay.
Anyway,
but Botham Jean. So of course, for people that are not aware of this, Amber Guyger was the police officer, and that's obviously important. She was coming off of something like a 12 or 14-hour shift. She was the one that she goes home to her apartment. She walks in the door. The door was not locked. And what it is that she walked into the wrong apartment. Now, of course, her story is it was a mistake. I didn't know this guy. I had no history with this gentleman. I walked into the wrong door. There was this guy. I thought he was an intruder. She shot him. He died. Now that it turns out that I guess he was her upstairs neighbor. He lived on the floor above her at the apartment. And so and his door wasn't locked. So just a really quick rundown. So she's an off-duty police officer. She's coming back from her shift. She goes, presumably by mistake, to the wrong door. She walks in because the door is unlocked. She pulls her weapon. She finds Botham Jean either sitting or laying on his couch or whatever. And she claims that she believes that this is her apartment and that this is an intruder in her apartment. And so she shoots him in the chest. He died. He doesn't die instantly, by the way. Yeah. I think that there's video of other officers coming to the scene, and he's still alive. But they get there. He ends up dying. And some of the brief details. So let's talk just a really quick little bit about the details of the case before we get into our whole little ranting that we're inevitably going to do. So long shift at performing her daily justices as a police officer. She comes home, according to her story, she goes to the wrong apartment by accident. She believes it's hers. The door's unlocked. She thinks there's an intruder inside. That's who she thinks Botham Jean is. So the defense claimed that he approached her, that she comes in the door, he comes at her, so she fires and strikes him. Now, a couple of the points of the case that were a little bit more damning for Amber Guyger was, I think she's something like only 5'1", and he was something like 6'1", something like that. I mean, he's like a good foot taller than her.
Big guy.
Yeah, he's a big guy. And the bullet went into his chest, it clipped his heart, and it goes down through the lung, and it ends up getting lodged in his body in a downward trajectory. Now, she claims that he came at her, so she pulls her weapon and she fires at him because this is some intruder that's aggressing towards her. But the prosecution says that just doesn't jive. Now, the prosecution is saying, no, this was just a dude that was sitting or laying on his couch, and she comes in and shoots him, just straight up in cold blood. And her story doesn't make any sense because how could the bullet being held, let's say it's being held as so from a woman who's only 5'1", so what, the gun's being held, what?
In a standard gun holding position.
Yeah, 4.5 feet up in the air, and somehow the bullet has a downward trajectory through the chest of a 6-foot-something tall guy. That just doesn't sound right. No. At the very least, you have to claim he got down on his knees or something. And even then of course, why'd she shoot? I mean, it still doesn't paint her in a very positive light. But that story didn't really add up. It certainly seems more like she walked in and he was still sitting or laying down on the couch, and she shot down at him.
You know what gets me about this one?
What?
When you walk into your house, you know it's your house, right?
Well, of course. I mean, hold on. We'll get to that in a second. There's a whole lot of holes in her silly story. This is just the first one, just purely from like a what's the word I'm looking for?
Forensics.
Yeah,
standpoint?
from a forensic standpoint.
You know when you shoot something, a bullet doesn't always go straight. It does curve inside the body and weave around.
Well, it does curve inside the body, but it's still it still went in from a downward trajectory. Yeah. And she's a particular. I mean, like, if the average woman is 5'4",
maybe she jumped up on the kitchen table and did it.
She's a handful of inches shorter than the average woman, and he's a handful of inches taller than the average man. It's quite a discrepancy. So it certainly seems like either she shot him while he was still sitting or laying down, or he got up. So let's say somewhere in the middle, he gets up, he comes towards the door because someone walks in, and then she yells or screams or pull a gun, and he gets down, like, oh my God, someone's pulled a gun on me. He goes down, and then she shoots him from above him. Either way, that certainly does not paint her in a particularly positive light. Right. So then, of course, there's the second thing of, boy, we've all been there. We've all been there. We've all been tired coming home from a long day. You've done this, haven't you, Blake? You were out DJing a wedding. And you drove home late at night. And by gosh, I just drove to the wrong house and walked right on in.
You know, I always like to give people the benefit of a doubt. When you live in an apartment complex, they all look the same. And when you're maybe intoxicated, I don't know.
I tell you what, even if I was willing to say that that's not ridiculous, and I'm not.
Right.
Would you or I get the benefit of the doubt if we walked into some random person's apartment, much less we walked into the apartment of the off-duty police? Say you were tired and you walked into the apartment of Amber Guyger and blew her away.
Right.
Would they be giving you the benefit of the doubt?
No, of course not.
Of course not. For one, you wouldn't deserve it. Like, I'm not saying that it doesn't go both ways. You wouldn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. She certainly doesn't deserve So the point being is her having a pretty little tin badge doesn't mean that she gets any more benefit of the doubt that you or I would get. Because you and I most certainly wouldn't be getting the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
So, okay. So she walks into the wrong apartment thinking it's hers. That's ridiculous. Yeah, he didn't have the door latch. So that's how she was able to walk in on it in the first place.
But don't you get your keys out when you go to open a door?
I mean, obviously her story would be that, yeah, she did do that, and then she noticed the door just comes open because it wasn't latched. And then that's how she knows, oh my God, there's an intruder. Like, that's her story.
Right.
But it still doesn't change the fact that the man is dead. And of course, and I would go a little bit further too, and I would say, okay, so even if she's telling the honest to goodness truth that it was a mistake, that she walked into the wrong apartment, that she was really tired, and then that he springs up and she thinks that he's an intruder, and then he comes at her. Which again, by the way, if you want to rush at someone who breaks into your house with a gun, that's your business too, by the way. Sure. He had every right to approach her.
Yeah.
Because she was trespassing in his house and she was armed. But let's just say her story is totally true. That still doesn't make it not what it is. Like, that still doesn't mean she didn't murder him. Right. Like, that's, and I feel like this is sort of a point that's sort of kind of been lost in the whole telling of the tale and the prosecution versus the defense. Not only would you or I not get the same benefit of the doubt, and maybe that would mean that the charge would be different. Maybe that would mean negligent homicide or manslaughter. You know, look, I'm not. We'll have to talk to Suzanne again. She's a lawyer. she could tell us a little bit more about. If those circumstances were true, what would it be plead down to?
Right.
Maybe it wouldn't be first degree murder or anything, because that's premeditated, right?
Right.
Like that's
right.
But so I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a legal expert, but I would say that if you believed that sorry tale, maybe the charge would be different. But she'd still be guilty. Like she'd still be guilty of having committed a crime, whatever degree of murder they listed it as. She still did it.
Right.
And she's still, like, that's not in dispute. She killed this man. She killed this man.
Right.
She killed this man. Like, that can't be said. And I don't care what version of the story you believe. He's still dead.
Yeah.
And she still killed him.
Yeah.
So she should still suffer the ramifications of that. Now, I want to take a couple of really quick moments to talk about a couple of different aspects of this. So the first one is as I said when we started, I was hoping that they would have sentenced her by now, by the time we recorded this episode.
Okay.
Or I was hoping maybe we would get lucky and there'd be a breaking news or something.
Sure.
That unfortunately didn't happen. And one of the reasons they're doing is they're doing the whole rigmarole of, now that she's been found guilty, now they're going to sentencing and the jury's still there, and now they bring up all these different like character witnesses and stuff, like they're talking to his to his co-workers and to his family members. Like I think they just had his father up there talking about, you know, what kind of guy he was and all that. Now I do want to say really quick, that shouldn't necessarily change how the jury deliberates.
Right.
Because whether Botham Jean was just an absolute paragon of the community, or whether he was a piece of crap, you know, whether he was just some dude who didn't take out his trash and didn't help old ladies cross the street or whatever, that doesn't change that he was murdered and she did it. Like, so the crime is the crime. She's been convicted. The punishment should be the punishment. I don't necessarily agree that the jury should give more or less years based on how they feel about the deceased.
Right.
Because that's irrelevant. It really is.
Right.
The only way the deceased should have any say on the punishment is if the circumstances were completely different. Like he attacked her and then all of a sudden it's not even the same charge anymore. It's defense or whatever. So I don't know if I really like that. That's actually something we're going to have to ask Suzanne about. I don't know if I really like this whole sentencing hearing part.
Well, the jury doesn't actually deliberate on what kind of sentence he gets. The law is already clear about what he gets.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not, sir. So she could get as little as 5 years for this.
But that's up to the actual what she winds up convicted for, right?
So,
I mean, if it's manslaughter or first-degree murder, that's what
the
matters.
jury that convicted her is hearing testimony aimed at deciding the severity of her punishment, which could range anywhere from 5 to 99 years. No, sir.
Okay, maybe that's how murder works.
But that's what I'm getting at, is that I don't think I like that, because it should be what it is.
Right.
It shouldn't, like, whether he was a nice man or not a nice man, and I'm not disputing that. I'm sure he was a great person. I don't know. I don't mean that I don't care in the sense I don't care about his having died and been murdered and that it was wrong. But him having been murdered and how wrong it was doesn't change based on how nice he was.
Right.
It was wrong.
Yeah.
And she should be punished for it. However, there's a couple of things I want to pull up before we take our next break here. Is that you'll remember we've talked on this show before about restitution as opposed to punishment.
Yeah.
And I know Suzanne has asked me before when I've been on her program, where she had said, you know, in essence, I believe what you're saying. I believe in what you're saying. But obviously certain crimes are worse than others. You know, if you break my window and then you pay for my window, say you pay for my window plus an extra 10% for the trouble, then we're all square.
That's restitution.
It's evensies. Yeah. We're all the house is square. We move on with our lives. You don't have to then go spend 60 days in jail.
No,
because that's not going to approve. That's not going to make the quality of the glass any better.
Right.
That's just going to cost all of society.
Yeah.
So I believe that very strongly. But obviously, people are going to balk. I understand this is what I'm getting at. I understand that people are going to balk at that when you're talking about something like murder.
Sure.
Because you can't, like, there's no check you can write that's going to bring back Botham Jean.
Right.
And so I understand that it gets to be a harder sell with the more severe crimes, restitution for things that can't possibly be brought back.
Yeah.
However, with that said, I've told you before, I don't think most people have principles, and that having principles isn't necessarily easy thing.
It's not.
It's not.
No.
But principles aren't about being easy. They're about sticking to your guns.
Right.
And so I still think that yes, Amber Guyger should be punished. And yes, maybe that punishment involves some sort of jail time. But I would still rather her in some way have to give restitution to the Jean family.
Right.
Than for them to just simply revel in the knowledge that she is locked up and then try to pick up the pieces and move on. Like, that's not...
Yeah.
I mean, what does that do?
Nothing.
It
doesn't do anything.
I know one of our friends on Cerberus Radio Network who was keeping up with the story as we were discussing it yesterday, they had just announced that she was found guilty, right?
Yeah.
And he had shared the link with us, and he said, there you go, you got your pound of flesh. And I know that for the most part, he was joking.
Yeah.
But there's some truth to that in the sense of, well, yeah, but so what does that get you? You know?
Yeah.
And maybe if that were a loved one of yours, maybe what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe holy
closure.
retribution is what you want,
Yeah.
and you're not looking for some dollars and cents.
No.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe everybody's different. But I still think that society is served better if Amber Guyger has to pay for her crime, but whatever payment for her crime is, it goes to the Jean family, not to the state.
Right.
Not to you and me to pay for her, 3 hots and a cot, as they say.
Yeah.
What does that do?
Nothing.
So I'm not saying that there isn't a role necessarily for people to be taken out of society when they are deemed to be violent, unhealthy. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that there's not a role for that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I still always would prefer that somehow she make amends to the family. Even if you came back with, well, there's just nothing she could do. There's just no amount of money she could pay. There's no amount of service she could provide that will ever replace our dearly departed. Well, maybe that's true. But I would still rather try than to just say, okay, well, let's just give her like if they give her the 99 years, okay, she's all right, life in prison.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll all move on.
Yeah.
She certainly won't. She'll be serving her time. The rest of her life will be in a miserable cell somewhere. But I think it's romantic in a sick sort of way. Like, tell me what you think about this, Blake.
Yeah.
That there's sort of a weird, sick romanticism in thinking to yourself, the person who did me wrong is punished, and now they're going to suffer. But how long does that really last?
Right.
Like, how long does that last before you realize life does go on?
It does.
And I'm willing to move on, but they're still in that cell.
And their punishment never ends.
And what good is that doing me today?
Nothing. Doesn't do any good.
Now,
you didn't even get the closure you deserve. Because you just locked them away and put them in a cage and said, "Oh, here you go, forget it."
I'm going to let you take a moment to comment on this because you know me, I'm not a big religious person.
No.
But I've always been told by my Christian friends and neighbors up and down the street here that they preach forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's an easy thing for you to lose a loved one to someone else's violence or mistake or whatever you want to call it. I'm not saying forgiveness is easy. And I'm not saying it doesn't involve time.
Right.
But you'll be dead before this lady's still going to be in jail. Yeah. Is that right?
Well, I mean, in the end, what you got to come at this angle that, forgiveness is something that is spiritual and exists outside of us. I mean, that's my take on it. I've had things happen to me in my life where I have chosen the path of forgiveness, and that wasn't easy because, in my nature and in the nature of all of us, we want revenge. We want someone to suffer and be punished for what they've done to us.
Yeah.
But in the end, that doesn't actually benefit anyone because you can't change what has happened. You can't replace a human being. You can't get back what was. So you're forced with the choice that you have to move on and you have to be okay with the way things are going. But if you harbor hatred and if you harbor rage and if you harbor anger, then moving forward, you are forever doomed by those emotions. You are forever hindered by them. So I think it's really important that forgiveness be innate in everyone, regardless of your faith or how you see things.
Yeah.
But some people just are not capable of letting go of hard feelings. But in the system, taking a person and putting him in a cage and saying it's done. No, that's not done. That didn't do anything. Because now that person has no opportunity, to repay their debt to society. We're paying their debt to society.
Now, I love that you brought that up, that if they're just going to be thrown in a cage for all time, then they don't have the opportunity to make any type of amends. The only amends they're going to make is in their suffering.
Yeah.
That just doesn't seem right to me.
No, because you're not accomplishing anything.
It's
just expensive.
Because again, if this were fresh on your mind, if one of your kids were killed in some horrible way, accident or otherwise, and someone was found culpable for it, in the short term, you might be thinking they should be punished because they have taken something I love and I want them to suffer. But
I couldn't imagine that. I could imagine that the emotions that go through someone when that happens are pretty incredible.
But how are you going to feel 5 years from then, 10 years from then, 20 years from then? If, let's say, in 5 or 10 years, your heart has softened and you have managed to pick up the pieces and you've moved on with your life. And you think to yourself, well, that chapter is closed. We'll never forget the one that we've lost, but I have moved on. That chapter of my life is closed. But you don't.
That's what you don't understand.
But no. But you have. But if the punishment that the offender received is, like in this case, say she gets the 99 years, is there no opportunity that we can't meet in the middle somewhere where you say, well, look, this person, I feel like that punishment only serves as an example to other people. Of course, if Freddy Krueger is here and he's murdering kids left and right and we capture him and throw him in jail, of course, he's such an abhorrent criminal, such a horrible mass murderer.
That thing would have to be locked away because society wouldn't be safe.
And they get rid of the key.
Thing.
Maybe.
Right. But it's not like this woman was running around killing everyone she saw.
No. So that's one thing. So maybe there are going to be those outliers. Like there's going to be somebody who's listening to this episode who's going to say, "Well, actually, what about What about Hitler?
What about Charles Manson?" Yeah,
there's I get
monsters, but then there's normal people.
Yes, but most people, even people who find themselves in this sort of situation, most people aren't that. Like guys. Like all of those serial killers on all those nightly like Law and Order shows you're watching, that's not every day.
No,
that's not
very rare.
Normal everyday.
Right.
Like your local police department's not out tracking down a bunch of serial killers because they ain't there.
Right.
Frankly,
they just make great crime
They're probably
dramas.
just beating some kid who's got some weed. But but that being neither here nor there, it's just not a thing that's a really major pressing concern.
Right.
So, but in these one-off type situations, as bad as it sounds, and I know that someone out there might be thinking, if it was you and your loved one, you'd be thinking differently. If something happened to Anna Kay, you'd want that person to burn. Yeah, maybe I would. Maybe I would. But again, that just means there's an end. It brings an end to the situation in which there is no possible future for any good to come of it.
Right.
And I feel that punishment, by and large, only ever serves to ward off future offenders, right? Like it's making an example.
Message.
It's making an example. Like when the teacher makes the kid who talked out of turn write on the board 1,000 times.
She's
punishing that kid so that maybe he won't do it again.
Right.
But when he has to go up in front of the whole class and start writing on the board, he's also demonstrating to the rest of the class
Yeah.
what will happen to you.
Right.
I just don't prescribe to that.
No.
I just don't prescribe to that on a philosophical
Well,
level.
it's not the right form of punishment. You're locking somebody away from society in the assumption that they're going to do it again. You see, and that's the way I've always
Well, you're
taken
locking someone
prison.
up in society in under the presumption that this is what they deserve.
But
that
have you
they'll-
ever been to a prison?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that punishment?
Well, it is.
It sucks, believe me, but-
you know, we wish that they would let Ross Ulbricht out right now because he's living a horrible existence that he doesn't deserve. But the point being is, like, even take, like, since I brought that up, this is not a Ross Ulbricht episode, but bring that up. What does it serve, even if you believe Ross Ulbricht was creating the Silk Road so that a whole bunch of assassins could get work and sell drugs, even if you actually thought, you're an idiot if you think that,
Yeah.
but even if you
Yeah.
actually thought that, how does Ross repay his debt to society by dying in jail?
He doesn't.
He doesn't do
It's just a
anything but
waste.
die in jail.
It's pointless, and it's expensive because someone's got to feed him.
All that does is to potentially prove a point to the next potential person to build such a site.
If that
And
potential
even-
person's paying attention.
And they're not. That was going to be
Yeah.
my next point. You're stealing my thunder here.
Dude.
That's my next point.
Great
No
minds
one's
think
paying any
alike.
attention. That person just goes to the nothingness. No
Yeah.
one's visiting. No one's seeing that.
no.
No one cares. That's just how it is. So I just don't prescribe to the philosophy of making examples of anyone.
No.
And I don't prescribe to punishment over restitution.
See, I agree with
And
that. I agree.
and I think it's important to mention that on Today of All Days episode, because this is an episode and this is a case that would test our resolve.
Yeah.
This is something that would make us question our principle. But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's important for us to demonstrate that we really believe what we believe when it's not easy to, or when it's popular to demand, blood and sacrifice.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of people in our community out there that might not agree with what I'm talking about today. There's a lot of people in the community out there that are posting links to her guilty verdict, all saying, "Lordy, Lordy, thank goodness they finally got one of them cops. They're just a bunch of pigs. We got one. That's great. They got what they deserve." I know it's easy to feel that way. And again, she is guilty, and I'm not disputing that.
Right.
She should be found guilty, and she should be made to pay.
Yeah.
But being made to pay doesn't mean die in jail.
Yeah, it doesn't
Maybe
mean
it
sit
could
in a
mean
room.
something else.
Right. That's a hard question. How do you, you could debate this forever. But how do you make restitution for murder? How do you make restitution for murder? You can make restitution for the window, for the car, for the theft, for the weed, for the da-da-da-da. When there's a tangible object involved. But when you're talking about a life, man, that's tough.
It is tough, but I'd still rather you try.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
We're smart people. We should be able to come up with something better than a room.
no, we're not.
Yeah.
Human beings are dumb, panicky creatures that want to make each other suffer for their own benefit.
Well, maybe that's why everybody winds up in a room.
But that's why we strive to do better.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you who will never do better. Is the state will never do better. The
No.
state. This is what the state has wrought, is a system where it's just black and white. It's guilty or innocent.
Yep.
And guilty means you're going to
The box.
You're going to go to a correctional facility. That's the worst.
Doesn't correct
That's the
anything.
worst nomenclature ever. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no correction. If you send someone to prison for life, that is in no way correctional.
That's not
It was
correcting
never
anything.
because in fact I
a
would even
doom
go one
box.
step further and say, by your own logic, if it were possible, it's not, but if it were possible for you to be sent to prison and somehow be made into a better person, then it would actually be a greater crime for you to make them a better person and then keep them there forever.
Right.
And not let them go
Exactly.
live their life. That would actually be
yeah,
worse.
that's worse.
That's actually worse.
So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Just expensive.
You don't make any sense whatsoever.
I know.
Okay. Well, I think we need to take a commercial break.
I agree.
I need a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you ever been talking politics with a friend and told, if you don't like it here, you should just move to Somalia?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, from the sandy beaches of Mogadishu, Sherry and I bring you Postcards from Somalia, one of the newer products of Little L Productions, where we take on all of the fallacies of the people who say, if you don't like it, you can just get out. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com. You know, I was trying to find in the break before we left, because we're wrapping it up here, just on chance that maybe they had sinister something. So it's still no. Yeah. But you know, we actually had another thing in the stack to talk about today, but I'm not gonna ruin it. We're gonna wait for that till another week, because it's too much and it's too good, and this is already we already ran too long.
I hear you.
We were literally just earlier this very episode, we were talking about how we were doing such a good job of being on time and keeping the episode. Yeah. And now we have to cut a whole segment out because we ran too long.
Goodness gracious. Oh well.
You know what? You're the producer, so this is really your fault.
No, it's not. Come on. The nice thing about podcasting is it's kind of free form. You're not on some sort of horrible network clock. If we've learned anything
from this episode, it's that it's got to be someone's fault and they have to be punished. And I say you.
Go to the box. I know. Time for me to go to the box.
You're already in the box.
I am in the box.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
You have anything else?
I don't. Nope.
No final thought. You know, the last segment that we do each week on Sports Ball with Mike and Alan is we have a final thought. And sometimes the final thought isn't pre-prepared. It's like you do the episode, and in the course of the episode, something springs to mind.
Sure.
And so you use that. So you don't have so nothing has sprung to mind?
Yeah, I'll tell you what sprung to mind.
What?
This statist country needs some serious prison reform.
Well,
that's another topic for another day. But yes, we're in bad shape. You and I are not in bad shape, but the state is in bad shape.
Yeah, I know. You keep saying we.
But, you know, we're not in the state. We're just victims of it. We are, sadly, ants being squashed or burned by a giant magnifying glass that moves around. Our best opportunity is just to try to avoid the flames.
I worry about you.
Yeah, you should.
That's so most people don't worry about things like that, but you do.
Yeah, I don't know how I sleep at night.
This got really weird. So in the break, we had literally discussed amongst ourselves, well, we don't have time for another segment, so we're going to kill that segment, and we'll just do a little quick chat, and we'll end the show.
Quick chat.
I didn't realize to you quick chat meant ants and magnifying glasses and
epically big things. Yeah. Sorry, that's just me.
So thanks for listening to another episode of Gold Standard with Alan Mosley.
Yes, sir.
What happened to this camera? Why
you want to be on that one?
Well, it's because I'm addressing the audience. Because you were looking at me the whole time. If I'm addressing the audience, then I'm looking at that camera.
Yeah, but this camera's
I'm not thanking you for listening to it, because I know you don't. You don't listen to any episodes. You're not even listening to me right now.
I am listening to you.
No, just don't lie to me. He lied to my face. So, thank you for listening to another episode of Gold Standard Alan Mosley. We're a proud product of Little L Productions, along with another fine programming as the Sherry Voluntary Show, I think.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Sherry's still doing the Sherry Voluntary Show.
There's
the Gold... we're the Gold Standard.
We're the Gold Standard.
What's wrong with me?
I don't know.
Because the producer is not doing his job. That's what it is.
No, don't blame it on me.
There's Sports Ball with Mike and Alan, which we actually do that on Thursdays. Yeah. So be back here tomorrow.
Yep.
There's Postcards from Somalia. So Postcards from Somalia is really the comedy show of Little L Productions. This is only funny because we're bad.
Yeah.
That show's funny because we're funny. That's different.
That sucks.
There's also Godarchy with Mike Meharry. So that's really the religious philosophical show. We're only religious and philosophical because I'm triggering people.
Yeah.
That show they actually talk about things from a position of knowledge and strength. I don't talk about anything. Yeah. And you can support us by following us on social media.
Right.
Social media where you can see these episodes as they debut each week, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Mm-hmm. Twitter is @Alan and Mosley. Always caveat there, that's where bad stuff gets said.
Yeah, if you want to see the real action stuff, man, that's where to go. That's where the fun stuff is.
It's mostly just me retweeting people that say something stupid and calling them a word or two.
Yeah, and then telling them to commit suicide.
I absolutely do not. I absolutely do not. We have to get this set up in our thing for next week. You know what? We need a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we do.
We need to spice up this program, and one of the ways we're going to do that is more music, more effects, more sound effects,
more euthanasia.com.
And we need to have euthanasia.com.
That's right. We need to be
So I
supportive
don't
of
tell people to go kill themselves. I tell people to go to euthanasia.com to
That's
get
right.
the information they need to make the right choice.
Wow. That was almost like an advertisement for them. That's rough, dude.
Can you imagine if they sponsored us? I'm gonna see if they have a contact on that page.
Night.
God, that would be so good.
That would be pretty epic.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like you own yourself,
Yeah.
and if you want to kill yourself, that's your choice.
That's a whole
story
right there.
I actually support euthanasia.com.
Yeah.
In the principle that I think it should exist.
Okay.
So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
They should be a sponsor of the show.
Right.
I'm gonna do that.
That's a whole topic
they're
for a
probably
whole another show, man.
That's
That's a big one. Yeah, oh, yeah.
So Twitter is at Alan Mosley, but you don't have to do any of that. You just go to our website, which
There
is
it is.
thegoldstandardpodcast.com.
That's right.
It's where the donation link is. That's a PayPal for one-time donations. If you want to become a monthly subscriber, you can do it by joining our Patreon, which is patreon.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Have you noticed that the longer the episode go, the more mad scientist my hair gets?
It's awesome.
What happened?
Because it's alive, man. It's got its own existence. Like it's ethereal. It's in the clouds.
It's alive, but it's also ethereal.
It's epic. Yeah.
I don't even know you anymore. I can't talk to you. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.